that was coming up for debate in the Senate. Just by way of background, the DRC has come a long way. We had wars, especially starting in '96, all the way to 2003, where the process happened so that people came into a transition. We had election that brought a lot of hope, especially in 2006, with 5 years of democratic gains. But that seemed to be starting to unravel about 2011, when the president and his majority decided to change the constitution so that we'll go from two-round process to one round. The problem with that system was that it created a crisis of legitimacy. So in a country like the DRC, if you cannot win with 50+1 and you move to a one round, you're creating a system whereby a candidate can win with 30%, depending on how many candidates there are in the race. And such a victory is bound to cause problems in a country going through what the DRC has been going through. But we had that in 2011. And I was lucky to observe both elections, 2006 and 2011, and was able to live some of the crises firsthand on the ground. So 2001 has created this legitimacy crisis that has taken the country in a place where the country is not really being properly governed, because the tensions that are just kind of sitting there between, on one hand, the opposition and the majority, on the other hand, between the central government and the provinces. And then also the crisis about the legitimacy crisis also manifests itself in many other ways, because you have a Senate that was elected in 2006, and we've not had municipal elections and provincial elections that will allow the renewal of leadership in the Senate. We also have the same crisis with governors. You know, if governors who've been there since 2006, the mandate of governors and the senators is for 5 years. So the senators who are in Kinshasa, I'm talking about the National Senate, have been there since 2006. We are talking about 2015. So they've served way beyond their term. Constitutionally, you can make a case that this is acceptable, because the Constitution says until the new institution is set, then the old institution, the old guard stays. But we know that that has implication in terms of governance in the way that the country is run. This is the same problem with governors. Governors have been in place since 2006, elected by provincial assemblies, but because we've not had provincial and municipal elections, most of those governors, at least a lot of those governors are in place. So the case of the governor of Katanga, for instance, Katumbi, who has survived time, but he's still there. Can you really make the case that this person is legitimate, is representing the people, when in fact the needs of the population might have moved? In other places, in other provinces, we've had various crises whereby governors have stepped down, or governors moved on to become MPs. We've had some semblance of renewal, but that also has not really led the country in the right place. So today we have actually a mix of policymakers. We have Martin Fayulu. We don't have the name, so they can just wave. Martin, yeah. Martin Fayulu is an MP. He represents ECD, which is Engagement Citoyen pour le Développement. He's been more vocal in kind of grassroots protest. In 2011 particularly, he worked hard, took to the streets every Thursday to ask that the government, the CENI, open the registry so that it can be audited, because there were issues with that. So he's one of the people who've been beaten quite a bit by the police. Recently, he took to the streets regularly to ask, to amass a number of signatures to ask that Malu Malu leave his position so they can have a renewal of leadership in the Senate, the Electoral Commission. We have right next to me Frank Diongo. Frank Diongo is also a member of parliament, and he represents the MLP, Mouvement Lumumbiste Progressiste. And he's a long-time activist, starting in the days of the Conférence Nationale, through UDPS and other movement. Was actually at the during the Sun City negotiation, was a member of parliament during the transition, also was elected in 2006 and 2011, so he has a long horizon of some of the challenges that have been taking place. Albert Moleka is known to a lot of you. He's formerly the chief of staff of Etienne Tshisekedi, and was for a long time the mix between a spokesperson, but also the bridge between UDPS, the diplomatic corps, and the international community in Kinshasa. So again, long time actor on the political scene, big perspective. It's up to you to quiz these people with your questions when we open it up. And then finally we have José Makila. José Makila is also a political leader, now he's in the National Assembly, and he represents ATD, Alliance des Travaillistes pour le Développement. And José actually has the advantage of being both an MP, but also having served as a governor. He was a governor of Equateur, eventually ran in some trouble, and created a crisis over there, and stepped down and ran things. So he'll be able to share with us that perspective of what's this issue about decentralization, the coupage électoral. What are we dealing with when we talk about the conflict or the cleavage that exists between the central government and the local government? Where are we going? So without further ado, I would like to open it to invite our guests to speak, and we'll start with Martin Fayet.
Okay. Now, after all this, what we have decided in the opposition is to run campaign to create the awareness. You know, the awareness to the population. We have to tell them, okay, now, the constitution, we cannot change the constitution, one. Secondly, we cannot let Mr. Kabila to continue to run this country. Two. Three, we need to consolidate democracy. We need to consolidate all the institutions we have put in place, starting for the provincial assemblies, the provincial government, the national assemblies, the Senate, even the presidency, because all those institutions are very weak. Nobody is doing the correct job. Nobody is doing the job, the comprehensive job that people of the country or even outside can appreciate. The country operates with the corruption. Corruption is everywhere. There is no check and balance. Okay, the National Assembly, the president, he used the money, money put for the National Assembly, and nobody controlled this. And then, on va prendre des gens qui comprennent.
Parce qu'il ne faut pas qu'on répète. Moi, je comprends. Moi, je ne comprends pas ce qu'il dit. Parce qu'il ne faut pas qu'on répète.
Non, laissez-moi le faire directement. Donc oui, en français. Donc nous avons dit que il faut faire des campagnes. Nous avons fait des campagnes de sensibilisation, disons, dans le pays, pour dire à la population, on ne peut pas changer de constitution, on ne peut pas changer, M. Kabila ne peut pas demeurer au pouvoir. Il n'y a pas de contrôle dans le pays, même au niveau de l'Assemblée, dans toutes les institutions. Ce qui règne dans notre pays, c'est la corruption. Alors, ces campagnes, those campaigns to create the awareness, we started with the first one, we name it No Way to Balkanize the Congo. Nous ne pouvons pas balkaniser le Congo. The second one, we call it Don't Touch My 220 article of the Constitution. Touche pas mon 220. And the third one, we say Malu Malu should be removed. Malu Malu should go. Malu Malu out. And the last one, I have it here. I think also as you are getting some paper. The last one, we call it Peuple Congolais, l'heure a sonné, réveille-toi. People of Congo, time is up. You have to wake up. We say that, and then we went to the street. We did the door-to-door job and to discuss with the people of Congo. And then we really created the awareness and everybody wake up. That's why we also call at the same time meetings. We call the meeting. The first one, it was in September 2013. That meeting was really, it was, we had even more than 1,000 policemen in the stadium just to, push people out. Nous avons commencé par le premier meeting en septembre 2013 et nous avons fait ce meeting, mais le meeting a été réprimé dans le sang et on a arrêté plusieurs personnes. And the second one, it was us in January 11th, where we called a meeting to tell the people why we are saying no change of the constitution, no change of the electoral law, why we say no census, and you people of Congo, you have to boycott the census, and you have to, as MPs in the assembly, we signed a statement, a strong statement. We put in place a strong statement saying that we, as a member of the opposition in the parliament, will not attend any meeting which will have for subject to discuss about the electoral law, the change of electoral law. Nous avons décidé de dire, nous en tant que députés, nous avons signé une déclaration disant que nous n'assisterons à aucune plénière, à aucune réunion de l'Assemblée nationale qui aura pour objet de discuter de la loi électorale. That you remember, I don't know if you saw it on the TV, watch it on the TV, on the video, that on January 12th we went to the National Assembly and with a whistle and we disturbed the meeting, but they continue. They continue. Then we agree, finally, the opposition has a wall. We signed this paper called Contrat de confiance. Après, nous avons discuté, l'opposition dans son ensemble, nous avons signé un contrat de confiance, contract of trust between us, and we put in place first the objective. What is the objective of this organization which is uniting the whole opposition? Second, what are principles and rules and values we put in place? We have, the objective is we have to respect the constitution, we have to run the election, mainly the presidential election in 2016, and Kabila has to go. It's put in this paper, and then with the 7-8 principles and values. Nous avons mis donc les objectifs dans notre contrat de confiance et les 7 et 8 valeurs que nous devons nous tous nous conformer pour qu'on soit ensemble. Now, that's what we have done. I think we will come up during the discussion to discuss how Mr. Kabila and his police and his army, they killed people. We'll talk about those policemen and military soldiers. We really think that that soldiers, they took police uniform. They were not Congolese, because I have some photo here where I'm discussing with Congolese police. They were not so bad, but those who were shooting with the real bullet, they were foreigners. That's what we had. And on Wednesday, the 21st, after the first and the second day, we decided to have a meeting between us to see how to continue the operation. But we said that, okay, as the demonstrations continue, we have first to go to the hospital to see those young boys who were shooted, were injured. And donc le 21, mercredi 21, nous sommes partis à l'hôpital Mamayemo pour voir ces jeunes gens qui ont été blessés. 3 of us were there with 3 others, MPs and other people, including Mr. Christopher Ngoyi. Christopher Ngoyi is one of the coordinators of Sauvons la RDC with me, with Bertrand Iwanga, who is now in jail. And we went there. When we went there, and things happened. What happened? We had the Garde Républicain, the Republican Guard. They came. They wanted to shoot us. Then the discussion, and they didn't have harm. and they called for the friends with arms, but we decided to leave the place. We left the place. 3 minutes after us, they came, they started shooting, they killed 2 people, and they injured many others. Then we went back to the office. We started working at 7:30. 5:30 p.m. we decided to end up the meeting. Then Mr. Christopher Ngoy, he went back to the room and started to call people. You know, I think he was having a radio interview, and we decided to leave him there. Then Mr. Christopher Ngoy left and he went back home, and at 7 p.m. he called me to say that, okay, he was being arrested. I think this is the introduction, and I'll come back during the question and answer. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kabila. Now we'll turn to Franck Diongo.
Merci. Je vais parler français, je n'ai pas l'exclusivement français. Je commencerai par remercier l'initiative et tous ceux qui sont venus nous écouter pour la situation du Congo.
Okay, so I'm going to have to speak in French. I would like to start by thanking the initiative, and all that have come here to talk about the situation of the Congo.
Au Congo, il y a échec des processus électoraux, il y a crise en République démocratique du Congo, profonde.
In DRC, there has been as we only have 10 minutes, I am going to distribute a document that puts in words the current situation of the Congo in French and in English, thanks to Google Translation.
Les étapes importantes que le Congo a traversées, de 90, la conférence nationale, 2002, dialogue intercongolais, et les 2 processus des élections, je vais brosser de manière sommaire, comme nous n'avons que 10 minutes.
I'm going to briefly go through the process that leads us from the National Conference of 1990 to 2002 and then to the elections of 2006.
Pourquoi ça ne marche pas au Congo? Quelle est la nature de la crise en RDC que nous avons jusqu'aujourd'hui? Parce que ça ne marche pas.
Why has it not functioned in DRC? What is the nature of the crisis in the DRC?
D'abord, il y a l'absence de volonté politique. De 2, mauvais diagnostic. Et de 3, bien entendu, mauvaise thérapeutique.
So first, there is the absence of political will. Second, a bad diagnosis. And third, a bad
thérapeutique, ça dit que des solutions, mauvaises solutions.
Proposition, a treatment.
Je vais donner quelques exemples dès l'arrivée de M. Kabila en 2001 au pouvoir jusqu'à ce jour.
I'm going to give a few examples from Mr. Kabila's arrival in power in 2001 until today.
M. Kabila a utilisé des subtilités pour que lui devienne le président, alors qu'on devait désigner un président par processus là-bas. Il a réussi les premiers coups.
Mr. Kabila used subtle measures to become the president. Although we were supposed together in the International Congolais dialogue to designate the president together, he thus realized but succeeded in achieving the first coup.
Il a exigé qu'on mette son nom dans l'accord comme président de la République pour accepter de signer l'accord au plan inclusif qui mettait fin à la guerre.
He obtained that we put his name in the final agreement as president of the republic, thus becoming president.
Pendant la transition, dans la coutume congolaise, il faut avoir 40 ans pour être candidat président de la République. Mais lui va changer la coutume congolaise depuis 60 à ce jour pour que moins de 40 ans, il a été candidat, pour qu'on accepte. Et on a mis ça également dans la Constitution.
So he also changed an important component of Congolese political culture that has existed since the DRC's independence in 1960, which is that the president should be over 40 years of age.
Vous trouverez dans l'histoire du Congo, Lumumba, qui était majoritaire aux élections des 60, avait 35 ans, il ne pouvait pas être candidat président. Et Mobutu, qui était dictateur des 60, à ce jour, a respecté dans toutes les constitutions 40 ans pour être candidat président de la République en RDC.
You'll find in the history of Congo, Lumumba, who in 1960 had the majority, but was only 35 years of age, did not become president. And even under Mobutu, who was a dictator, Mobutu still respected this important custom.
Donc Kabila est le premier à violer cette coutume et c'est très grave dans l'histoire du Congo.
Kabila is the first one to go against this political custom, and it's of dire consequences in Congolese political history.
Dans l'accord global inclusif, la constitution que l'honorable Martin vous a montré est un compromis politique au pays. C'est un accord, un compromis politique de toutes les forces politiques.
The constitution that Martin has presented to you is a political compromise, an agreement that is important for the country.
Nous avons demandé qu'on ait un détour des élections présidentielles.
We asked for 2 rounds of presidential elections.
Et que les élections des députés nationaux soient couplées avec les élections du président de la République et les élections des députés provinciaux soient couplées avec les élections des sénateurs et des gouverneurs.
And we asked that the elections of members of the National Assembly be coupled with the presidential election, and at the same time that provincial elections be coupled with the senatorial race.
Comme en 2006, M. Kabila n'a pas gagné les élections, il a maintenant changé la constitution encore parce qu'il a pris le pouvoir par la force.
Since in 2006, Mr. Kabila did not win the election, he changed the constitution and took power by force.
C'est ce qui va continuer toutes les modifications des lois électorales. Chaque fois qu'il veut changer une loi électorale, une constitution, parce qu'il veut se maintenir illégalement au pouvoir.
This is what motivates the successive modifications of the electoral law, which since his goal is just to stay in power.
Alors, cela est appuyé par, maintenant, ce que je vais vous expliquer, la nature de la crise congolaise, qui est, premièrement, dans la donne interne, la crise de légitimité de pouvoir.
I will now explain the nature of the Congolese political crisis, which first rests on the legitimacy, the crisis of legitimacy of political power.
C'est-à-dire qu'au Congo, on impose des dirigeants, soit on accède au pouvoir par la guerre, soit par un coup d'État, soit par une élection non sincère, non transparente. Par la force, et la population est imposée, la population n'accepte pas.
So a legitimacy crisis, which means that in the DRC, leaders are imposed on the population. So you come to power through war or through an election that is not transparent and that cannot be accepted by the Congolese people.
Et pour résoudre la crise de légitimité de pouvoir, nous demandons à l'opinion internationale d'accepter une démocratie sincère, réelle et transparente.
To resolve this crisis of legitimacy, we ask that the international community accept a real and sincere republic and a sincere and transparent electoral process.
Parce que nous avons demandé de soutenir
warfare with national groups and foreign groups.
Cette guerre entraîne les désastres humanitaires, des déplacements de milliers de populations. Et la guerre est dans 5 sur 11 provinces.
This war leads to a humanitarian catastrophe comprising the displacement of thousands of people, and this war is present in 5 out of 11 provinces.
Troisième nature de la crise congolaise, la crise géostratégique.
Third nature of the crisis, the Congolese crisis, a geostrategic crisis.
Parce que la guerre coûte $1 million chaque jour.
The war costs $1 million every day.
Et dans cette dimension, ce sont les multinationales qui exploitent le minerai qui financent les guerres.
And in this situation, the multinationals that exploit minerals in the Congo have been financing the war.
Aucun Africain n'a les moyens de financer la guerre à $1 million par jour.
Not a single African has the means, the financial means to finance this war, as it costs $1 million per day.
La dernière nature de la crise congolaise, c'est la guerre de leadership régional.
the last nature of the Congolese crisis is the war of regional leaderships.
Le Congo qui est le plus grand, les pays voisins ont besoin de l'affaiblir pour piller leurs richesses et asseoir leur influence sur les plus grands et les plus riches de la région.
As the DRC is the biggest country in the region, neighboring countries feel the need to weaken it, to be able to pillage its resources.
Voilà pourquoi, au regard de toutes ces natures de crise, il faut une approche qui tient compte, d'une part, que le multinational ne finance plus les guerres, d'autre part, que les pays voisins ne s'impliquent pas dans la guerre en RDC, et aussi au niveau de la région, il faut réhabiliter la RDC pour qu'il ait son rôle exceptionnel dans la sous-région, parce que le Congo, sur les plans géostratégiques, a 9 pays voisins directement. Donc il peut déstabiliser 9 pays voisins directement et 24 pays voisins directement. Là, nous avons besoin de la compréhension et de l'aide des États-Unis d'Amérique pour une diplomatie efficace, pour un héritage politique avec résultat. Pour terminer, l'entêtement de M. Kabila qui tire les ficelles de toutes ces facettes-là en voulant rester au pouvoir, c'est parce qu'il croit être soutenu par les multinationales qui exploitent les richesses et qui s'enrichissent de la guerre et de la crise. De publier, de promulguer la loi électorale que nous allons vous distribuer aujourd'hui, ils ont de publier un calendrier issu de cette loi électorale. Nous allons entrer en possession, mais qui paraît inconstitutionnel, parce qu'il veut se maintenir au pouvoir par la force. Sanctions pour la RDC, c'est qui dirige, parce que le peuple a rejeté M. Kabila à travers les messages que l'honorable Martin Fayulu vous a montrés. Merci pour votre attention.
When back in February 2009, Mr. Tshisekedi asked me as his spokesman to officially declare that he will participate to the 2011 elections. He was sick in Europe, and finally he spent 3 years out of the country. And during his absence, of course, problems arose within the party, and mainly problems of succession, which is a fact that will repeat itself over and over within the UDPS. Mr. Tshisekedi was able to come back to DRC on December 8, 2010, and it was my responsibility to make sure that his return would show that he still enjoyed that popular support that he had in the past. Many people didn't believe that Mr. Tshisekedi was still, popular. Most diplomats would tell me, well, the majority of the population is so young, they don't know anything about Mr. Tshisekedi. So it was a challenge for me, but also a challenge for the security services to manage the return of Mr. Tshisekedi. And it was very easy to find an understanding, actually, with the security forces. I told them, your objective is to show that you are able to manage a demonstration of millions of people, because I know that millions of people will be on the street. And my objective is to demonstrate that my boss is still popular. So we found an understanding in everybody, finding where his benefit was. So when Mr. Tshisekedi came back, according to the French embassy statistics, there were more than 3 million people in the streets. And this already gave an idea of what would be the challenge, the real challenge during these coming elections. Everybody knew that it would be Kabila versus Tshisekedi. Very quickly, we experienced the real implication of the international community through the main ambassadors, namely your ambassador, the Belgian ambassador, the French ambassador, the European Union ambassador, who very quickly, they looked for contact around Mr. Tshisekedi's entourage, and I must say that I was the right person, because I already had contacts with most of the ambassadors' collaborators. At first, what we saw was that the international community was very uncomfortable, actually, with the good shape that Mr. Tshisekedi displayed, and with the fact that once again it had to deal with Mr. Tshisekedi. And most of them were very frank about that, and they challenged Mr. Tshisekedi in being able to unite the opposition around him, so that the electoral challenge will be polarized, Kabila's camp against Tshisekedi's camp. And I think if there's been one failure in our strategy, in the UDPS strategy and Mr. Tshisekedi's strategy, it was the fact that we haven't been able to bring about the unity of the opposition around him to the end. There were commitments on both parts, and people like Frank Diongo and Martin Fayulu and even José Makila's party, the Jean-Pierre Bemba's party at the time, they all agreed to work with Mr. Tshisekedi. But Mr. Tshisekedi's opinion was not really to unite people around him, but to unite people behind him, if you understand the difference. But, most opposition leaders would say, well, we are also leaders of our own party, and we have to discuss the way we would unite, and we have to discuss also, in case of success, what everybody would get out of that success. During the 2011 pre-election period, some of you would remember that UDPS demonstrated many times. Every Thursday in May, June, July, we demonstrated for the auditing of the electoral list. And I would like to raise the fact that we got at the time the promise, the guarantee from the US government, namely through Assistant Secretary Johnny Carson, that the US, through his ambassador, will make sure that we'll get the audit of the electoral list. At the end of the day, we never got that audit, and we had more than 35 of our members who were killed during these demonstrations. Mr. Tshisekedi, very strangely again, engaged in several relations, several contacts with the international community during 2 consecutive trips. And when he came back home, he declared publicly that I spoke with those who rule the world, and they have told me that for once they will not mingle into our internal affairs, so they will respect the will of the Congolese people. That's why I said he blindly trusted these declarations and these commitments. I would like to talk to you a little bit more specifically about November 26, which was the last day for the electoral campaign. And in the morning of that day, we had a meeting I was there with the Secretary General of UDPS, with the head of the police, General Bisengimana, with the representative of the General Administrator of the Intelligence Services, because oddly enough, Mr. Tshisekedi and Mr. Kabila found themselves in the same province at the same time in cities far from one another for about 100 kilometers. Mr. Tshisekedi was at Matadi, Mr. Kabila at Boma. So we had to decide who would come back to the capital first, so to avoid any kind of unrest that would become unmanageable. So it was decided that Mr. Kabila would land at Kinshasa at 10:30, and Mr. Tshisekedi would land at Kinshasa at noon. What we didn't know was that at the very same time, Mr. Tshisekedi's pilot was told by airport officials at Matadi that we received the order not to let you take off today. So we had those two leaders landing at Kinshasa almost at the same time, at the very difference that Mr. Tshisekedi's plane was prevented from landing at Kinshasa and was prevented from landing at Brazzaville. So the pilot took the decision himself just to land at the civil airport of Kinshasa, the small airport of Kinshasa, the Ndolo airport. But Mr. Tshisekedi's supporters, who were waiting for their leaders and who learned that Mr. Kabila unilaterally cancelled all the programs that were planned this day for all the candidates, they started demonstrating. And I personally, I was at the Njili airport, and I personally saw how both the Republican Guard and the police, shot deliberately hundreds of people. I think you've read all the report about November 2026. During the Q&As, I'll have the opportunity to give you maybe more insight in the way the international community has been so important, so influent, not only in the outcome of these elections, that's the issue, but on Mr. Tshisekedi's behavior during this time, and also to tell you maybe about the future of UDPS. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Prof. Je remercie tout le monde. Je serai très bref sur la décentralisation.
I will be very brief on decentralization.
Au fait, la décentralisation, c'est quoi?
So decentralization is what? It is?
C'est la volonté des constituants de subdiviser le Congo en 26 provinces pour mieux administrer.
It is the will of the Constitutive Assembly to divide Congo in 26 regions to better administrate it.
Pour l'instant, nous avons 11 provinces.
As of now, we have 11 provinces.
Je vais parler de son fonctionnement,
I will talk about its functioning,
c'est-à-dire l'administration et les finances,
i.e. the administration and the finance,
du pouvoir de suspension,
of the power to suspend,
l'avantage et l'inconvénient de la décentralisation.
the pros and cons of decentralization.
En ce qui concerne l'administration, le constituant a prévu dans son article 195
With respect to decentralization, the Constitutional Assembly
deux institutions provinciales.
Okay, there are two institutional, yes.
Il y a l'institution qui s'appelle l'Assemblée provinciale.
There is the provincial assembly,
qui légifère par voie d'édit, c'est-à-dire les lois provinciales,
which edits provincial laws,
et le gouvernement provincial qui est composé de ses ministres,
and the provincial government, which is composed of 5 ministers.
Alors, vous attendez parler souvent de la décentralisation. Je vais vous expliquer, il y a 2 types de décentralisation. Il y a les entités territoriales décentralisées et les entités territoriales déconcentrées.
You often hear about decentralization. I will explain to you that there are 2 types of decentralization. There are decentralized territorial entities and deconcentrated territorial entities.
Les entités territoriales décentralisées, c'est quoi? C'est les villes, les secteurs, les mairies. Ça, ce sont des entités territoriales décentralisées. C'est les communes.
Decentralized territorial entities comprise cities, sectors, and communes. And municipalities.
Oui, tout simplement parce qu'ils ont des organes délibérants.
Simply because they have deliberative bodies.
Ils décident, l'organe délibérant décide, comme une assemblée, vote leur budget, décide sur le chef qui est le maire, et ainsi de suite. Et ils ont une personnalité juridique.
The deliberative body deliberates and decides on laws, and they also have a judicial person that is nominated.
Alors que les entités territoriales déconcentrées, ce sont les territoires, les groupements, les quartiers et les villages. Ceux-là n'ont pas de personnalité juridique.
These don't have any juridic.
Ils reçoivent des instructions directement du ministre de l'Intérieur du gouvernement national.
They receive their instruction directly from the Interior Ministry of the national government.
Relayées dans des provinces par des gouverneurs qui représentent le gouvernement central.
These instructions go through provincial governments that represent the national government.
Ça, c'est l'administration.
That's administration.
Maintenant, les finances. Comment les provinces peuvent s'autofinancer?
Now to go to finance. So how do provinces auto-finance? How can?
L'article 175 de la Constitution a prévu les retenues à la source de 40% sur les recettes nationales.
Article 175 of the Constitution allows for revenues to be held at the source, 40% of revenues to be held at the source for provincial purposes.
Et la même Constitution, en son article 181, a prévu pour les provinces moins nanties, qui n'ont pas assez de ressources, de pouvoir bénéficier de fonds de caisse nationale de péréquation, qui est une caisse de solidarité.
And Article 181 of the same Constitution allows for the provinces that have less means to be able to benefit from the Solidarity Fund.
Tout cela, c'est par écrit.
All this is written.
Sur le plan pratique, il n'y a rien qui se fait de la sorte.
In terms of practical reality, there's nothing.
Sur le plan pratique, qu'est-ce qui se fait? On parle de la rétrocession, qui est pratiquement le 15 à 20% des 40% qui devraient être retenus à la source.
In terms of practical reality, we talk about retrocession, which concerns only 15 to 20% of the 40% that should have been allocated.
Dans ces conditions, la décentralisation ne peut pas marcher parce qu'il n'y a pas de financement.
In this context, decentralization can simply not work because there is not money.
Dans ces conditions, les responsables de tous les services, que ce soit déconcentrés comme décentralisés, dépendent de l'administration centrale qui, de leur bon vouloir, peuvent envoyer de l'argent ou non, peuvent beaucoup envoyer ou moins. Et là, vous comprenez que le pouvoir des provinces est amoindri parce que vous dépendez pas du texte, mais du gouvernement central.
This is in the Constitution, Articles 197 and 198.
C'est-à-dire, les organes délibérants peuvent décider du gouvernement. C'est-à-dire, si le gouvernement ne gère pas bien, l'Assemblée provinciale fait un audit, constate une malversation. sanctionne le gouverneur et son gouvernement par une motion.
So it allows for deliberative assemblies to decide and nominate the government, meaning that if there are problems, the deliberative assembly will conduct an audit, will see these problems, and will sanction, will apply sanctions to the governor.
Ça, c'est le texte, ça, c'est la Constitution.
That is the text. That this is
Dans la
the
pratique, c'est
Constitution.
autre chose.
In practice,
Donc,
it is a
dans la
different matter.
pratique, si vous n'êtes pas avec Kabila et que vous êtes gouverneur, il instrumentalise les députés provinciaux pour vous faire tomber.
In practice, if you are not with Kabila and you are a governor of a province, Kabila will use the deputies of the provincial assembly against you.
Si vous êtes avec Kabila, vous pouvez jeter l'argent de l'État par la fenêtre.
If you are with Kabila, you can throw the state money out of the window.
On ne vous fera rien du tout.
Nothing will be done to you.
Voilà. Alors c'est ça, ce qu'on appelle la décentralisation chez nous. C'est-à-dire, tout est centré autour du pouvoir central.
So this is what decentralization looks like in DRC, meaning that everything is actually centered around the central power.
Et même là, il veut utiliser la décentralisation pour provoquer le glissement. Parce que depuis que le constituant a prévu ça dans la Constitution, il n'a jamais mis les 26 provinces en marche. Mais pour lui permettre de faire le glissement, il invite maintenant la Chambre basse et la Chambre haute de vite voter la loi pour qu'on puisse mettre sur pied ces provinces afin de permettre le glissement. Vous comprenez le glissement? Le glissement, c'est de ne pas aller aux élections en 2016. Voilà.
So even here, even though decentralization doesn't exist in practice, Kabila has been trying to use the fact that it is in the text of the Constitution to avoid going to the elections in 2016, to slide past the elections of 2016. So even though the 26 provinces do not exist, he has tried to put them into at least legal existence to avoid these elections.
Alors, dans le cadre normal de la décentralisation, il y a des avantages et des inconvénients.
In a normal framework of decentralization, there are pros and cons.
Moi, personnellement, je soutiens la décentralisation,
Personally, I am for decentralization,
mais pas dans le format Kabila,
but not in the Kabila format,
dans le format du texte.
in the format of the text of the
Voilà.
Constitution.
Alors, je vous donne, d'après moi, les avantages de la décentralisation.
Let me list the pros, in my opinion, of decentralization.
Elle permet la participation des entités décentralisées à la gestion du pays en général.
It allows for the participation of decentralized entities in the administration of the country.
Elle assure la souplesse et la rapidité dans la gestion de la chose publique.
It allows for flexibility and rapid and swiftness in management.
Elle garantit l'adaptation des décisions administratives aux contingences locales.
It guarantees that administrative decisions will be able to adapt to local contingencies.
Elle est un facteur de développement de l'esprit civique et public du citoyen car il est associé à la gestion de la chose publique depuis la base.
It is a factor positive factor in the development of a civic spirit, the civic spirit of the citizen, because he is associated with public management.
Ces inconvénients dans le contexte actuel.
Cons in the current context.
Si elle est mal comprise, la décentralisation par la population, elle provoque l'affaiblissement du pouvoir central, surtout s'il y a décentralisation politique.
If decentralization is misunderstood by the public, it leads to the weakening of the central government.
Il y a aussi le risque de méconnaître l'intérêt général au profit des intérêts régionaux ou locaux est certain, ce qui, pour les adversaires de la décentralisation, est une menace à l'unité nationale.
There also exists the risk to misunderstand or to confuse general interest with local or regional interest, which for many opponents is a threat to national unity.
Elle peut aussi être une source de gaspillage et du désordre financier, surtout si la gestion des affaires publiques, principalement dans le cadre de la décentralisation technique, est livrée à des gens incompétents et si les mécanismes de contrôle ne sont pas clairs et efficaces.
It can also be a source of throwing money away, especially if the technical management is in the hands of people that are incompetent and if the mechanisms of audit and control are not efficient.
Comme recommandation,
As recommendations,
si après 2016, si Kabila part,
if after 2016 Kabila leaves,
il faut qu'il y ait plusieurs séminaires de formation sur la décentralisation. Il faut vraiment nous aider à donner des formations au niveau de la base pour que les gens comprennent c'est quoi la décentralisation.
we need several seminars on decentralization. We need to be able to teach the basis of the population what decentralization is.
Il faut plus de moyens pour concrétiser la décentralisation parce que, à mon avis, le Congo ne peut sortir du marasme économique que si le pays est réellement décentralisé. Parce qu'au niveau de base, si les organes délibérants ont l'œil sur la chose publique, peuvent vérifier, peuvent contrôler au niveau des secteurs, au niveau des villes, je pense qu'on pourra booster l'économie congolaise et assouplir tant soit peu la misère du peuple congolais. Et je vous remercie.
Aux questions, et comme je suis l'hôte aujourd'hui, je vais profiter pour d'abord poser la première question.
Nous laisse apprendre que la loi a été promulguée et que la CENI a publié le calendrier électoral.
So we are here and we learn from here that the law has been promulgated and that the electoral calendar has been published.
La première des choses, il faut savoir que cette loi est pleine de pièges.
First, we should know that this law is full of traps.
Deuxièmement, la question c'est de savoir est-ce que M. Kabila a réellement la volonté d'aller aux élections ou d'amener le pays aux élections.
The second question is to wonder whether Mr. Kabila has the will to actually go to election, to lead the country to elections.
La réponse est non.
The answer is no.
Pourquoi? Parce que M. Kabila, même si on nous sort un calendrier réalisable ou faisable aujourd'hui, à la fin des comptes, Kabila sortira un autre argument en disant qu'il n'y a pas d'argent.
The reason is simple. Even if we come out with a realistic calendar, Kabila still has another argument up his sleeve, which is simply that there is no money to conduct elections.
Regardez la mauvaise volonté de Kabila, qui ne respecte jamais ses engagements ni sa parole.
Look at the bad will, the ill will of Kabila, who has never respected his engagements or his word.
Il signe devant la communauté internationale qu'il va faire partir les FDLR avec la MONUSCO. Le moment venu, il ne le fait pas. Il se rétracte.
Here, in front of the international community, he promises to send the FDR, FDLR, and at the last moment he retracts himself.
Il signe un dialogue à Addis Abeba, qui va venir au Congo tenir un dialogue. Il arrive, il ne tient plus le dialogue.
He signs a promise to conduct a dialogue, to go into Addis Abeba in Ethiopia and conduct a dialogue. He arrives and then doesn't conduct it.
Mais quelqu'un qui ne respecte pas sa parole, comment voulez-vous qu'aujourd'hui, subitement, il change parce qu'on vous sort un calendrier et vous croyez que réellement, demain, il va aller aux élections? Qui a tenté, de changer la Constitution, il n'a pas pu, réviser la Constitution, il n'a pas pu, tricher sur la loi électorale, il n'a pas pu, et aujourd'hui, vous croyez réellement que M. Kabila est prêt pour aller aux élections? Non, nous pensons que nous ne sommes pas des enfants, et la réponse est claire, c'est non, et non, Kabila n'ira pas aux élections, il n'a pas la volonté d'aller aux élections, à moins que mes collègues me contredisent.
Our time is precious, so I won't take too much time. Once again, I want to remind you when the facts don't fit the theory, drop the theory. A theory is proposed to us that will be credible, transparent elections on November 27, 2016. But the facts, I think Mr. Makila has given you some of the facts. It's written that a little bit before the publication of this calendar day, the president of the CENI, Mr. Malumalu, declared to Radio Okapi, the MONUSCO's radio, that the organization of the election will require $1,145,608,680 US dollars. And there is another detail that Mr. Malumalu said that after having exchanged with the Prime Minister, they've put in place a commission which came up with these figures of, I repeat, $1,145,408,680 US dollars. And he added, of course, the elections are very expensive in DRC, and they agreed with the government for a plan of putting this cash at the disposal of the CENI. Now, when I was a student here, after this, someone would ask you, can an elephant fly?
Okay. Remember, I just want to ask what are the steps to follow? I think to have a clean electoral process, this process should be in this order. That's, first of all, we have to have inscription to the electoral list, because you'll have in 2016 close to 10 million young people who have to vote. But nobody is talking about the electoral list. This is the first. We think that second and third quarter of 15,000 of this year should be used to have that electoral list. The second thing, we have to have the provincial and the senatorial elections. We think third quarter 2016 should be the moment. And the three, we have to have the presidential and the legislative election in September 16. Okay, in September 19, 2006, to be conformed with the Constitution. And the local election should be held after 2017. When we have the legitimacy in the country, we have the correct government, and so we can think about the local election. Thank you.
En fait, quand vous avez organisé le soulèvement populaire, nous qui sommes ici aux États-Unis, nous nous attendions à Burkina Faso. Qu'est-ce qui a manqué? Qu'est-ce qui n'a pas été mis sur pied pour qu'on ait Burkina Faso au Congo? Parce que M. Kabila n'est pas prêt à quitter le pouvoir. Merci beaucoup.
On va répondre très rapidement. Oui, nous avons dit que M. Kabila doit partir. Et nous cherchions l'élément déclencheur. Pour nous, nous avons compris que cet élément déclencheur pour les Burkinabés, c'était le changement de la Constitution. C'est ce jour du 29 octobre 2014 où il devait changer la Constitution. Et nous sommes dit, voilà, comme maintenant on a le changement de la révision de la loi électorale, c'était les trigger elements pour nous, l'élément déclencheur. Alors, nous avons organisé ces manifestations. Mais ce qui s'est passé, c'est qu'ils ont utilisé la ruse. Ils ont utilisé M. Kengo et M. Minako pour tromper la vigilance de la population. Parce que vous avez vu que les manifestations, pour nous, on devait continuer. Et nous avons donné l'ultimatum qu'on devait retirer à tout prix cette loi électorale. Mais M. Kengo a dit à la population, il va traduire en même temps, M. Kengo a dit à la population que, voilà, il n'y aura plus de recensement. Donc pour la population, s'il n'y a plus de recensement, c'est que Kabila doit partir. Parce que la population voulait que Kabila. Donc quand on a dit qu'il n'y aura plus de recensement, et là ça a dégonflé et la population a baissé la tension. Voilà ce qui s'est passé chez nous.
La petite explication que je voulais ajouter,
The little explanation that I would like to add
c'est qu'aujourd'hui, la population congolaise rejette M. Kabila. Nous avons demandé la manifestation en un jour, mais la population s'est appropriée. Aujourd'hui, la volonté de la population, même si nous ne disons rien, ne veut plus de Kabila jusqu'à 2016. La volonté de la population, Kabila doit partir avant 2016 parce que c'est le désespoir total et c'est le chaos du pays. Première fois dans l'histoire du Congo, depuis 1990, nous combattons la dictature où la population s'est prise en charge pendant une semaine, pas d'école, pas de bus, pas de marché, aucune activité ne marche. Donc même pas les politiciens ne donnent pas l'ordre, la population va s'en charger et dégager M. Kabila. C'est fini pour M. Kabila et la population.
This is our...
Thank you very much. Frederick May, I'm a student at SAIS. I have a question. If Kabila leaves tomorrow, what's happening in Congo? What's happening with the vacuum? And this is, I think, a key question for everybody, even outside of Congo.
Oui, bonjour, merci beaucoup. J'ai une question pour vous tous. Qu'est-ce qui se passe si Kabila part demain? Qui remplira le vide politique?
Je m'appelle Freddy Monanga. Une question pour tous les panélistes. Et si Kabila ne partait pas en 2016, avez-vous prévu quelque chose pour le faire partir?
Exactement.
Actually, Fred, that's a question that I ask very often, just to see what some of our partners think about that. If Mr. Kabila leaves tomorrow, literally, there is one way, there is the Constitution, the dispositions that are in the Constitution, which is Article 75, which says that in case of a vacancy or in case of death or in case of resignation, the responsibility of the President of the Republic is assumed by the President of the Senate. So currently, Mr. Ken Wadondo. That's what the Constitution says. And as Mr. Makila said it very clearly, the opposition asked for demonstrations on January 19 concerning the electoral law. But there is a message from January 20 and the following days, which Mr. Diongo explained very clearly. But if today there is that vacuum, in my opinion, there will definitely be an intervention of the army. But again, what army do we have? We don't have a Republican army. So there is, it's very likely, according to some analysts, and I agree with some of them, that there is already some premises of an announced kind of deeper chaos, because we are already in a chaos, right? Of a deeper chaos which is prepared in advance if this case occurs. But I think we can't underestimate the capacity of a people, you know, to organize itself, the capacity of a people to work itself for containing this kind of chaos. Of course, this is not the place about talking of specific strategies, but again, I think the Congolese people has shown in the past, since 1960, has shown its attachment to the respect of his territory and its attachments to peace. And in many occasions, the Congolese people have found a way just to contain this threat of chaos and implosion.
Let me add this. If you ask if Kabila doesn't leave in 2016, what will happen? But again, we have to respect the Constitution. The Constitution is in its provision 64 says that the people of Congo has to send away anybody or group of people who want to stay or to take the power in force. That's why we are saying if Kabila wants to take power in force, he has to leave. Kabila may leave before 2016. Today, if we continue to multiply initiative, and let's say in June, July, we see that nothing is showing that election will take place in 2016. We have to organize ourselves to let that guy out. This is the people of Congo. The constitution is an obligation to the people of Congo, written here, that if Kabila continues to multiply those initiatives, we will not have any other solution than to tell the people of Congo the guy has to move. Thank you.
La petite phrase que je voulais encore ajouter, c'est que l'opinion internationale prenne au sérieux les manifestations, la prise de conscience du peuple congolais de prendre son destin en main. Nous allons décider sur l'avenir de notre pays si M. Kabila continue à rester avec la force en violant les textes constitutionnels. Donc, sortir des chars, parce que M. Kabila a sorti des chars, a sorti les véhicules blindés. Vous avez vu les rapports de Human Rights Watch. Le peuple qui n'a fait que réclamer la liberté et la démocratie est tué.
A people that whose only thing has been to ask for liberty and democracy is being killed.
Les stratégies politiques ne se dévoilent pas, mais le peuple congolais a besoin de soutien des structures qui sont ici et de l'Amérique pour l'aider à aller dans une société réellement démocratique.
Dr. Ramona Tasco, and I've been in the Democratic Republic of the Congo since 2000. I work with the Kimbangis Church, and I also work within civil society and the Interreligious Council. I'm a medical doctor, but I'm also the CEO for Congo Basin Transportation, Inc. It is a private enterprise to modernize the maritime industry in Congo. First, I want to say thank you to each of you for coming and sharing your passion. There is no question in my mind as an African American, the passion and the place of passion from which you speak. I am an American, but I'm an African American who identifies roots in Africa. And so I understand the need to seek the highest level of democratization in the DRC, in all of Africa. It has taken more than 200 years for the United States of America to see the level of democratization that we see today. Your effort is less than 50 years. It's okay for you to be frustrated. Permit me, please, to speak in this fashion to you. It's okay to be frustrated. But it's also important for you as passionate leaders with vision to plan realistically for what can be achieved in less than 100 years. You may not live to see the things that you want to see. I want to propose to you a hypothetical. If Mr. Kabila was being truthful, if he does in fact plan to leave, it's a hypothetical that you are challenged with, I understand. But assuming he leaves, what is it that you are doing now as leaders to come together and to begin to put in place the infrastructural development needed to ensure that in 2016 or sooner, you're able to launch the campaigns of modernization, decentralization, involvement of civil society, getting people ready for the day when Mr. Kabila is actually gone. I have witnessed the good and the less than good of Mr. Kabila's work. I understand your frustrations. I see the challenges, but I am concerned about the vacuum that was presented as a concern. We still don't have an answer on that. When that vacuum does occur, and it will occur, what have you done now to begin to birth within the people the kind of change that requires time, systematic change in the minds, the hearts, so that there's readiness for the level of democratization that you seek to achieve when Mr. Kabila is gone?
Steve Weissman. My question is, here we are in Washington, D.C., and we've had a policy represented by the Special Envoy, Feingold, the Secretary of State, of promoting basically no third term for Mr. Kabila, to have the Constitution followed. Now, we've had all these recent developments. What specifically now do you want the United States policymakers to do to follow up on their call for no third term? You're talking about human rights violations recently. You're talking about human rights violations recently. The electoral register needs to be clarified. The financing of the election seems impossible. Since the U.S. is going to have to express itself, the U.S. government, on all of these issues, or maybe it should or should not express itself on these issues, what is your recipe for how the United States government today should be reacting to the recent events? Do you want the United States government to call for certain specific things to be done? And if so, what are they?
Thank you. I'm going to ask two very short questions. One, I'm nervous about the people vacuum. If Kabila left, like in Burkina Faso, who would each one of you support to be the interim leader? And don't mention yourself, your own parties, but who would you support? Is there someone out there who could at least step in the interim? Second question, I'm a trade policy man for people who know us. And we spend a lot of time, very unsuccessfully myself, arguing against sanctions that we don't see going anywhere except harming people. For example, Congo lost GSP. We have a conflict mineral ban, and all I keep thinking is, well, people who are working no one's going to buy anything from Africa or from Congo because of these bans and all the headache. So when you respond to the question about what the U.S. can do you view economic measures as something helpful in the sense of putting pressure, or something not helpful because it causes disruption, even weakens the country more, but it's not the same as the diplomatic, political sanction we talk about? Who can lead, and does economic sanctions play a role in your thinking? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Le respect de la Constitution, la deuxième question. Le problème ne se limite pas que les États-Unis parlent de respect de la Constitution. Il y a plusieurs composantes dans ce que Kabila puisse se griffer au pouvoir. Il faut que les États-Unis parlent avec Kagame. Que Kagame laisse notre pays et arrête de supporter M. Kabila. Il faut que les États-Unis parlent avec M. Museveni, qu'il arrête de supporter M. Kabila, ainsi qu'Eduardo. Nous connaissons leurs intérêts. Chacun de ces présidents a ses intérêts avec Kabila dans les matières premières. Il n'y a pas que Kabila qui s'intéresse au pouvoir. Il y a tous ces voisins-là qui veulent absolument que Kabila reste là-bas pour qu'eux se retrouvent. Mais il faut que les États-Unis prennent langue avec ces trois pays. L'Angola, le Rwanda et l'Ouganda. Ça, c'est la première des choses. La deuxième des choses, il faut que les États-Unis disent à Kabila de laisser les opposants tranquilles, parce que les opposants fonctionnent par rapport à la Constitution, en son article 8, qui reconnaît l'opposition en République démocratique du Congo, et qui a même une loi organique quant à ceux. Il ne doit pas continuer à traquer les opposants comme il le fait maintenant. Et en dernier lieu, il faut que les États-Unis nous aident réellement à avoir de l'argent, des moyens, pour que nous puissions aller aux élections. Pourquoi ne pas mettre le PNUD à la disposition de la CENI, par exemple, comme en 2006? Parce qu'en 2006, si les élections s'étaient au moins bien déroulées, parce que dans la compilation et dans le processus, il y avait le PNUD. Donc nous voulons effectivement que les États-Unis nous accompagnent, qu'on ne se limite pas dans les discours en disant respecter les constitutions, tout ça c'est bien. Mais il faut impérativement demander au président voisin qui soutiennent Kabila, notamment les trois que je viens de citer, d'arrêter le soutien. Quel que soit le président qui viendra, sera obligé de coopérer avec Kagame, de coopérer avec Museveni, de coopérer avec Eduardo, pour le bon voisinage. Vous ne pouvez pas rester dans un pays et ne pas être bien avec les voisins. Qu'est-ce que nous voulons? Nous voulons certes la stabilité du Congo, mais nous voulons aussi le bien-être de sa population. Voilà tout ce que nous demandons aux États-Unis.
Ce que les États-Unis, nous demandons aux États-Unis. D'abord, nous les remercions de ce qu'ils font, mais ce n'est pas suffisant. Premièrement, ce que nous demandons, c'est quoi? Le respect du délai constitutionnel égal que les États-Unis déclarent. C'est une demande formelle. Qu'au-delà de la fin de la mandature, les États-Unis ne reconnaîtront plus M. Kabila comme président au Congo. Ça, c'est la première chose. Ça, c'est l'opinion des Congolais. Et si les États devaient soutenir le peuple congolais, c'est de méconnaître M. Kabila au-delà de 2016. C'est-à-dire que la fin du mandat, c'est...
19 décembre.
Passé le 19 décembre, les États-Unis ne reconnaîtront plus M. Kabila. Deuxième demande aux États-Unis. Des sanctions, notamment le refus de visa de Kabila et son entourage. De deux, le blocage de tous les comptes bancaires à travers le monde. Donc, ce sont des exemples de la ligne forte. Donc, nous avons besoin d'un héritage des positions américaines qui peuvent contraindre Kabila à aller dans le respect continu. Jusque-là, M. Kabila blague avec tout le monde parce qu'il n'a pas senti un discours de fermeté. Alors que la population a montré sa fermeté. C'est la première fois qu'on tire et les gens meurent. Ça, c'est sur le plan des États-Unis. La deuxième petite observation, c'est quoi? C'est que dans l'histoire du Congo, les États-Unis, nous vous demandons qu'ils prennent les mêmes positions maintenant parce qu'en 1984, ils ont été le premier pays à reconnaître l'État indépendant du Congo comme État souverain et ami. Et j'ai le nom de l'ambassadeur qui est né de 1823, qui est mort en 1894, Cheton Sanford, qui a été nommé 7 fois à l'État indépendant du Congo. Donc, si le Congo n'a pas été partagé à l'époque, c'est parce que l'Amérique a reconnu le Congo comme un État souverain et ami. Et c'est comme ça qu'on n'a pas réparti. Nous voulons que l'Amérique prenne une même position aujourd'hui pour sauver le Congo et la démocratie du Congo. Merci.
I support what my colleague Frank Dion was said about what the US has to do. Doctor, the DRC didn't start with Mr. Kabila. What we have to know, all of us. Kabila came in power. He was 29 years old without any background. And we don't think that Congo will collapse after Kabila. And yes, we cannot wait for 200 years like you waited here in the United States to enjoy the benefit of democracy. Today, in 2000 years ago, you didn't have all the technology we have today. You couldn't travel as you travel today. The techniques, the technology were not like today. But the vacuum you are talking about, we have trained people. We have trained people. We cannot organize ourselves. I will give you this paper, and you will see we have a comprehensive program to run Congo. It's like you cannot insult the people of Congo. I work for ExxonMobil. Okay? We have people in Congo, they have experience, they have competencies, they have capacities to build that country. Kabila is just, he knows that's corruption. What is going on today in Congo? You can tell me, yes, Kabila has done that. If he's not there today, Congo will collapse. Kabila is the guy who wants to balkanize the Congo. Kabila is the guy who's making all these things in eastern Congo. The war in Congo, who's the source? Is not Kabila and Kagame? Who's Kabila really? You people know who's Kabila? We have to know. In Burkina Faso, what's happened? They said, the people of Burkina Faso, some of them are my friends, you know. They said that the opposition is not organized. The opposition doesn't have anything. But today in Congo, if Kabila leaves tomorrow, we will advocate that Dr. Mukwege, you know, for the transition period, if there is any transition period. Dr. Mukwege, who is well known, can take the power and organize the thing, so in 1 year later, we can go for election. We are organized, we have people. Don't think that, you know, the opposition has its own weaknesses. We know, because as I told you, that the corruption is there, and Mr. Kabila is trying to pay some people in the opposition. We have to admit that. Okay, this is a weakness. But we have a plan. If we can go and discuss, you know, together, and then you'll see what we propose to, manage this country properly, effectively, and in a responsible manner. Thank you.
I would like to thank again, Doctor, because, of course, as an African American, you had Martin Luther King. In DRC, we've had Patrice Lumumba when I was 3 and 4 years old. I had the privilege to jump on his knee. And I think what is common to those two figures is that they understood that the cause is bigger than yourself. The cause was bigger than them. To answer more specifically your question concerning the economic measures, I do believe that economic measures can be helpful, and I submitted a paper to Mvemba, maybe to distribute to you. The title is Transparency is the Key. It's a 2013 article that I wrote and just updated, which emphasized the link between the siphoning of all the products of these, our natural resources, which has been organized by some people in my country, people linked with the system currently in charge, how it affects the evolution of democracy in DRC. But as I have to answer to your question, in case of a vacuum today, responsibly the most organized organization or network today is the civil society, and most importantly the Catholic Church. So since you were talking about an interim kind of leadership, as a political actor myself, and since you said that we can't name our own leaders, I think it would be responsible to contribute with the civil society, and most importantly the Catholic Church, just to avoid some chaos that might become unmanageable. And I repeat, your question is about if there were a vacuum today. I think it was also Pete, Fred's question. But just to as a final word concerning this question, what about the military? Because we haven't mentioned the state of the military presently, which is, you have also that frustration within the military. You have that absence of an effective and well-defined hierarchy in terms of orders in the military. You have all those militia that are recurrent in several parts of our country, which might prove very dangerous. Let me just put it this way. But again, civil society, the Catholic Church, they have even the relevant connections internationally, even with Rwanda, Uganda, Angola, everywhere you have the Catholic Church. So just to answer your specific question, sir, if there were a vacuum today.
Toye walelo na SAIS ezali université monene, institution monene oyo awa na États-Unis etalaka makambo ya politique. Babengisaki batu ebele, batu bauti na département d'État, batu bauti na NED, bauti na organisation ebele, baye awa ba sénateur batindi ba collaborateur na bango, ba congressmen, women batindi ba représentant na bango, baya koyoka makambo oyo ya Congo. Donc tozalaki awa Albert Moleka, José Makila, Frank Diongo na ngai moko tosololi makambo ya Congo. Tosololi makambo etali mboka na biso batuni ba question toyebisi bango makambo ndenge ezali koleka, ndenge Kabila azali ko bebisa ezaleli ya bana ya mboka. Batuni boyoki ke babimisi calendrier électoral. Mais calendrier on ezali calendrier abuzoba. Calendrier d'abord est violé constitution. Donc tolobi na bango que calendrier on est violé constitution, mais biso tolingi eloko ya makasi po esalema. Kabila il faut akende. Batuni biso makambo belé. Mais ce qui Kabila azali te dans le sala, mais toyebisi bango est-ce que Kabila? Qu'est-ce que Kabila a? Kabila yaki na pouvoir yaki na 29 ans. Ayebeki loko moko te. Mais sikoyo bato yo bazana Congo basipe mibali ya mayele oyo basali na ba organisation minene na mokili oyo. Est-ce que bazali te pona okamba Congo toyebisi bango ke tokoko kamba Congo sikoyo eloko tozali kosala tolingi boye soki lelo babi soki lobi Kabila kei nani bokotia pour ça la transition et pour que na septembre 2006 bozana élection. Mais toyebisi bango mais docteur Mukwege oyebani mokili mobimba awa bana mboka bakotia maboko nzambe pa tie maboko mais musala za kosala soki lobi Kabila azalite ndenge salamaki na Burkina Faso mais tokotia Mukwege na batu ya société civile église catholique koya église bakoya bakotala ndenge nini toko kamba mboka pour un an comme ça to sali ba élection ya ndenge longo bani na septembre 2016. Donc problème ezalité que oh ce qui Kabila ezalité to na problème non to na problème parce que Kabila tebisi bango yende muto zali cause ya problème ya Congo. Nous disons en langage clair Kabila c'est le problème du Congo. Makamba balkanisation nana yenango. Makambo yusikozoleka na Beni na mboka bitumba bazo boma batu. Makambo oyo elekaki na Goma, makambo eleki na Sud Kivu. Nani amemi yango na Ruchuru bakotisi basoda rwandais tolobike basoda rwandais bazali awa balabio bazalité toyoko yoka 252 soldats ont quitté le Congo et tout ça bakambo yo bake kuna na nini na Kampala pona makamba M23 c'est qui réellement? Donc tolobike nyonso oyo bino batu ya Amerika to sengi bino que bo edebiso ba Congolais mama moko alobi que y a zali African American bangwa wa esalaki 200 ans pour ba comme la démocratie to ebisi non dans 200 ans on a bozaki na technologie lokola lelote bato ba ko tambola ko voyager lokola lelote bozaki na ba neni internet té mais lelo yo to zali na besoin to kende noki mais biso bana ya Congo to za na programme on a mikolo yoko ya Ok, to pesi bango déjà lelna awa sur place poto la bango to na programme to pesi bango programme oyo lobby to koki ko tia yango na place pour mboka kene liboso. Donc to yebisi bango que problème ya Kabila ezalité tout na problème mon côté. Donc sikoyo bana mboka to sengi na bino bo bimbo fongola miso na bino to kolisa maile na biso parce que Kabila eloko alingi kotikala na pouvoir. Kabila eloko alingi ko déstabiliser Congo biso beto lobi to telemeli eloko wana eko salemate Congo zali mboka nzamba pesi na bakoko na biso bakoko batikili biso to kotikila yango bana na biso siko tango ekomi ngonga ebeti ndenge tolobaki Congolais ngonga ebeti lamuka telema bami pe balobaki telema ungenge toko telema toko ngenga toko sala toko banga te toyoki oh non bazokana na biso toyoki balobiki non sikoyo fayulu ndenge zoko kende boye okende Europe kuna batu baselebele basi batindi batu ya aner po baya bapeso poison et tout ça mais wana za buzoba na sepeli mingi ndeko na ndenge payo noso na wuti awa na États-Unis na monike bana mboka batelemi pona likambo ya mboka na bango bana mboka balingi susu makamba buzoba te sikoyo na kusukisa na oyo na sololaki na ndeko bandeko ya kisasa Christopher Ngoi bamonani mais siko tozoko yibisa na gouvernement wana Christopher bokangiye mikolo zomi na mitano koleka sans aza na liberté siko bayebisa biso babombaki Christopher wapi bakangaki ye pona nini ok bayebisa biso banani oyo batikali na sima pona nini bakangi ngai lelo oyo nazali awa tozalaki misato bacoordinateur ya souvent la RDC Jean-Bertrand Ewanga Christopher Ngoi bazwi Jean-Bertrand Ewanga bakangi ye tina bakanga ye toyebi te toki kosamba bavoka basambi na nini mpona pa bazuzi eloko moko eza te batie na prison Christopher Ngoi baenleve ye awutaki epai na ngai tozalaki na ye na nsima donc bazali kosuivre biso bazali kolanda biso bandaki mokolo wana kokende na mama yemo kokende na Croix Rouge e nyonso ntango alonge mpa na ngai bake ale bazwi ye bake na ye mais likambo ezali awa bana ya Congo baza na mayele bana ya Congo balobiki Kabila akolemisa biso te
toyaki awa koexplike na bandeko na Amérique congressmen, étudiants, chercheurs, professeurs, makambo ndenge ezoleka na Congo. Et surtout ngai na lobai likambo décentralisation. Oyo ezali mode de gestion malamu pona cité, pona mboka, pona ko booster économie ya mboka, pona ko booster développement, mais et pona biso zo salama na respect ya constitution te, pe na respect ya ba texte te. Na sengi na bango que après sa formation mingi na ba Congolais ti na niveau à base ti na bamboka pour ba yeba décentralisation ezanini va se prendre en charge pour ba ti ba moyen Amérique a ti moyen à disposition à Congo pour que décentralisation ezala effective parce que mboka na biko se développer kaka ce qui a parti à ba village ba tu va se prendre en charge ce qui au monde ba organe délibérant il y a des secteurs, il y a des villes, il y a des communes, il y a des mairies. Et comme il y a contrôler la mairie, contrôler la chefferie, contrôler le secteur, je crois que la richesse est en Boka et que Nanzela Malamu et que permettre le développement en Boka. On a 5 en Amérique, il faut tirer moyen. D'abord, un, pour former bateau, et des deux, pour tirer moyen pour l'entité décentralisée et la viable. Parce que, on a expliqué bango, entité décentralisée zalinini, puis entité déconcentrée zalinini. Baïbaki yango malamute, tomei ko expliquer yango bango. Donc voilà, et l'autre chose ça la pona mboka, petozo bunda pour que élection et salama effectivement en 2016. Makambo ya koleka 1 heure du temps après Ngonga Oyo, il y a président Kabila ezalité. Donc 2016 tout effectivement une élection. Ndenge komami na kati ya constitution 9 mois, enfin 90 jours, donc 3 mois avant fin mandat, il faut processus banda pour élection salama. Ndenge touti koyoka yango toko examiner yango parce que loi wana oyo babimisi yango ezali na ba piège ebele. Calendrier wana pe certainement na ba piège ebele. Déjà montant oyo abe maluma azoloba. Soko tali mbongo oyo abimisaki pour na élection en 2006. 2 tours présidentiels na élection au yaba député ils avaient 480 millions. Comment lelo azotanga 1 milliard na ndambo kaka pona municipal na ni local et comme à 560 millions Non. Wana ezali maele mabe pour que bato balobaki mbongo ezali te moi tokende élection ezali te. Il faut totala mbongo malumalu asengi est-ce que eza na nzela. Calendrier wana il faut to examiner yango avant to pesa to ilisa peuple so eza malamu to eza mabe. Peuple congolais ezala vigilant quand nde na bisaki bino loi wana ba promulguer eza na ba piège ebele. Il faut totala calendrier ya malumalu so ezali faisable oui ou non. Toboy tondi ma calendrier et comme Kolongo mbongo ezali te to ken élection te et comme mobulu il faut to repesa bino position soki tozongi na mboka.
Well, I thought it was very helpful to see the perspectives of various opposition groups and really hear, you know, because we read different articles that often aren't from the Congo, and so, you know, getting people who are really on the ground during these protests and during these movements and also know the history and we're part of the history really put some good perspective on what's been happening and what's going to happen in the future. And I think it was helpful, the questions that were asked about, you know, with regards to what the different scenarios, you know, because these questions we've all been asking, what happens if Kabila leaves tomorrow? What happens if he doesn't leave? And, you know, seeing kind of different sides of the opposition was really helpful. So.
Parce que malgré bimisi loi yango lelo loi yango to bima lelo na président Kabila signé kuna na Kinshasa mais ezana na biloko ebele parce que bimisi surtout ça attention parce que ombre eza ebele et puis ndenge mbongo sengi pour na organisation ba élection eza impossible. $1 milliard ce qui 400 c'est impossible. Donc tout le monde qui en tout cas on limite que l'élection que là. Deuxième chose, je crois que mbongo wana ndenge basaleli yango eza pona kolakisa bamindele parce qu'il y a eu pression et pas bamindele que élection esalema. Alors pona koyebisa bamindele que non loi yango toza na moyen te bon loi yango yo mais tala mbongo pona koorganiser baélection yango esengi yo parce que tala États-Unis pesika $20 millions. Bon or toza na besoin ya 1 milliard sur 400 et quelques, impossible. Bon et donc ils ont comme ça biso que na 2006 élection ça m'a $400 millions. Na 350 millions $. Et puis en 2011, ils ont $400 millions. Si tu as mis $1 milliard, la population est matée, tu comprends, dans une situation où il y a $1 milliard, c'est sur base de quoi? Donc on ne comprend pas. Donc tout le monde que pouvoir est en volonté d'organiser l'élection. Et donc après, ils ont la volonté d'organiser l'élection. Donc il faut tout le cas, il faut opposition, tout le cas, la stratégie, parce que tolingi situation ezo tolingi bakile tangeso na mboka te tozo pesa bango opposition bazali na bonne volonté ba yebisa bango bakena ndenga malembe communauté internationale balingi bakena ndenga malembe mais bandeko balingi toujours bitumba makila Congo pe batu baleli mingi batika makambo wana donc situation yango en général yango wana tozalaki na honorable José Makila, honorable Martin Fayulu, honorable Frank Diongo na ndeko na biso Albert Moleka bameki ko expliquer bango situation yango ben je crois que mindele pe bana mboko bayoki yango na département d'état ba recevoir message na congrès américain ba recevoir message wana na maison blanche ba recevoir yango ben je crois que ba pression mosusu ko salema parce que baza envisager makambo mosusu salema
babi makambo mikolo to tikela mikolo je veux dire masola ba grand eza John Image le prix number 1 na makambo yo
John Image bilili fois 100.
John Image lelo vraiment akangi masolo
avenir na bango ba misusu futur na bango eza déjà présent ya John Image. John Image is the king number 1 na kei makambo yo John Image ozo kusabaninga pasi John